try that again. Good afternoon. Welcome. Welcome to another episode of Real Talk with Mary Grace. I am Mary Grace, and it is Thursday, the 29th of April, 2021, and we are live. And here we go. It looks like we've got people coming in, so that's great. Perfect. Good to see everybody. Welcome. Come on in. Say hello. Leave a comment. Put a comment in the chat. And if you're on Facebook, please tag people that you know. And if you are on YouTube, hit the thumbs up, hit the bell, and hit the subscribe button. So if the subscribe button is red, it means that you haven't subscribed yet. Okay. And then just check and make sure you didn't unsubscribe by mistake. That happens sometimes on YouTube. And then if you're on CloutHub, please make sure you're following me, follow the channel. That's channel 111. I'm also Mary Grace Media on CloutHub. Also go over and follow my Instagram, Mary Grace Media. And I'm on Twitter. I'm coming to you from what used to be known as Periscope. And that is Real Mary Grace 1. So I'm trying to get Real Mary Grace. I wish that I could get that, but at some point maybe I will. Okay. Wanted to just welcome everybody today. I hope everybody's doing great. I'm here for the Barley and Headley show. Yeah. Barley is the cat. Barley is so cute. It's so funny. Barley is so funny. He has, when I'm on the phone, sometimes I have this one friend that he hasn't met. And when I'm on the phone with her, he acts up the whole time. He cries. He tries to get my attention. So funny. And then I have another friend that absolutely that is really close to Barley. They're very close. And so when Barley is acting up, I actually call her and I get her on the phone and she talks to him and it calms him down. How funny is that? Did you guys ever do that with your kids? Here, get on the phone with Aunt Mary. And then you have to calm him down. So he has to get on the phone with his auntie and then she calms him down. So funny. Um okay. Now I wanted to jump into some topics and let you guys know some things that are going on. An update on the Arizona audit. I think this is very exciting. The cool thing about this is something that Praying Medic reminded us of. Is that you know, the cool thing about the audit in Arizona right now is that it's not being done by the government. Okay, it's not being done by one it's not being done by it's being done by the people. That's what I'm saying. So this is being done because the people in Arizona called and called and called and demanded that the Senate take action, that the state legislature take action, because that's what the Constitution says that you have to do with elections. And everybody is reasonably certain that the election was stolen, that there were problems with it. And it's kind of interesting because if you recall, the Democrats spent 3 years telling us that the election was stolen, that it was rigged, that Russia put Donald Trump in office. Do you remember that? And it's kind of interesting because they wanted us to indulge them for 3 years. Anybody that said differently was unpatriotic, un-American, Russian sympathizer, whatever. You know, we were called Vladimir Putin shills. And and yet, in spite of insisting for 3 years that this was done, I mean, they arrested people that worked on the Trump campaign. They put them through hell and they prosecuted them, persecuted them. And yet, they never once demanded or suggested, hey, I know what we can do. Let's go get all the ballots that supposedly were cast for Donald Trump, and let's do a full forensic audit and let's settle this question once and for all. Why do you think they didn't do that? Why do you think they didn't do that? I mean, because if if they were so insistent, they insisted for 3 years, and they weaponized the Justice Department, they weaponized law enforcement, meaning the FBI, and they destroyed people's lives. They corrupted the courts, and they put people like General Flynn through hell. They put George Papadopoulos, all of these people. And so, if they felt that strongly and that passionately about it, enough that there were entire segments of the internet that referred to Hillary Clinton as Madam President. I don't know if you know that, that they they were convinced that she was the rightful president. If you feel that passionately about it, where were those people? Why weren't they calling the states where he won, the states that he flipped, the states that supposedly they said that he cheated in? Why weren't they doing an audit? Because they have access and the ability to do an audit just the same as we're doing. So that would be the question that I would ask to anyone who says to you that there's no call for this, or that it's being done, that it's illegitimate, that it's partisan, that it's that it's not transparent or something like that. I would just say, well, there was a lot of talk for 3 solid years, and the media was dominated by the Russia, Russia, Russia narrative. So why didn't you guys do an audit? Why didn't the left do an audit? That would have settled it once and for all. So that's what I would ask. And then I saw a really good meme about this. Let me see if I can find it. I put it in my chat. It's pretty funny. It was about transparency. Let's see. I don't know where things go. Okay, here we go. This is really funny. I don't know if you can see this. So it's the swamp view on elections. So their version of transparent and secure is what was happening, in the days after the election, boarding up windows, and their view of suspect, partisan, and secretive. So they think that having having 9 cameras going 24/7 around the clock, pointing at different locations on the audit floor is a big secret, that we're trying to hide something. That's just the opposite. We're actually trying to expose and put everything, literally everything, out on the table and say, this is what we just want to see. We want to see, and we're funding it. We're paying for it. We're not asking the government to pay for it. Good Lord, we don't want the government to pay for it. We want this to be a true audit. And so I just think it's interesting. It's always a double standard, and they just don't see. And a lot of people that I talk to who are really committed to the narrative of the left, they don't even want to have the conversation. I've had so many countless encounters where somebody will lob something at me, a talking point or a question, and then, or an accusation, and then when I want to engage in a dialogue, they run away. So it's ridiculous. But this is where we are. So I did want to point that out to you. I think that, oh, speaking of which, so the Cyber Ninjas just released policies and procedures after Arizona's court order to make the documents public. So one of the things that happened in the court hearing this morning, I think, was that the judge said that the audit would not stop. So that was a defeat for the left, for Perkins Coie. And B, that the Cyber Ninjas could not keep their policies and procedures secret. And so they've already released them. Now imagine if Perkins Coie were running this thing and they were told that they had to release this information. How many? First of all, they would appeal it. They would countersue, and they would then drag their feet. You know that's what would happen. And so here we are. The information is out. So very interesting. So that's being reported by the Gateway Pundit. So Mike Lindell. I wanted to talk about him for a minute. He has been on the front lines, and there was a video that was put out today of him talking. Let me find it. I'm looking through Telegram. It takes a while sometimes, you guys. But did I share it? Mike Lindell. I need a better system for organizing everything I'm going to talk about during the show, because I used to have a really good system before I got taken off of Twitter, but I don't now. So I apologize. Okay, let me see if I can find it. Because the thing that I love about Mike Lindell is that he's out there on the front lines. I mean, he's fighting, and he is. Here we go. This is what he said on. This is what he said on War Room this morning, and oh, I heard he was on Jimmy Kimmel. I didn't watch that. But he was on War Room. And the thing that I love about him is that he brings the truth. He's not afraid to talk about Jesus Christ. He's not afraid of being censored at all. I mean, he started his own network because he wants to get the truth out there. So that's just tremendous, and he's got so many plates in the air. He's running his company. He's making documentaries. Now he's running a network, you know? And I keep saying this. I'm like, the pillow guy is going to save the republic. God's using people from all walks of life. And you think about his story. You think about the fact that he was an addict. He destroyed his family by being an addict. He was a successful businessman, but he was a secret addict. And then even in spite of all that, he built the pillow company, and he built the pillow company, and so he became wildly successful with that. And he's, his relentless marketing. Everybody knows the My Pillow jingle. Everybody knows about the My Pillow guy, whether you like him or not. He's out there. He's right there with Trump in terms of marketing genius. He really knows how to brand himself. And so God has given him that wisdom to be able to do that. And so he puts himself out there, and now, like, he has no fear. He has his zero fear. Kind of like Lynn Wood, these are people that have zero fear. And if you guys remember that song, Bobby McGee, remember that? Me and my Bobby McGee. There's a line in that song that says, freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose. Do you remember that line? Freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose. That is what these guys, that's how they operate. They absolutely know that that freedom is, that's it. Like, if you don't fight for this, then, I mean, these guys have nothing to lose. They've put it all on the line. They have left nothing on the field. And that is an example for us, And this is what he said today on War Room. This is a 30-second clip, okay? This is him on War Room. Okay.
To keep the faith. This is part of, I believe this is the divine appointment today. And I've said it before, everybody. We are living in the greatest time ever right now, because when we get way out here and it's going to be this glorious place we're in, you're going to look back and say, all this had to happen in order to get to that place. And then once again, we will be one nation under God. And I believe it's going to be the greatest revival for Jesus in history. And this is all just pieces. You'll look back and say, wow, that had to happen. I had to happen. This had to happen.
Yeah, so he's been saying this over and over. He has not wavered in his conviction about this. And I'm the same way. I feel the same way that everything that we're seeing, as hard as it is, it really had to happen. And because had Trump just walked into the White House, walked out and walked back, would have been tragic for our nation. I hate to say that. Not because Trump was in office, but because all of the thieving and corruption on both sides, and in lots of people would not have been exposed. So this is really a big deal. This is big, and God has made it clear that he is blessing and prospering those people that have stood with the truth, that have stood with Trump. But not only that, but who have stood for unifying our country and for the truth about what this country was founded on and preserving the covenant. So it's really not just about Trump. Trump is an instrument that God is using, and Trump has been a willing instrument. And it is that's something that anybody who tells you that you worship Trump, that he is a god or whatever, that people see him that way, that's couldn't be further from the truth. We are here, we are supporting Trump because he said yes, because he rose to the occasion, because he put himself on the line. We have a reverence and respect for him and a love for him. That doesn't mean that we think he's God. We understand that God chooses different people to be instruments for his will and to accomplish the things that he wants over history. That's just the way it goes. He doesn't come down and just zap the world. He actually chooses mortal men and women, and then he puts them in positions, and sometimes they say yes and sometimes they say no. So there could have been another Trump that was called to do what Donald Trump is doing, and that they said no. It could have been somebody that God put the unction into 20 years ago, and they didn't answer the call, because people have free will. And so that's something that's important to understand, that because Trump said yes, then that got the ball rolling. And so those of us who see that, those of us who recognize that, we're not backing down, because we believe that he is a very powerful instrument that God has placed for this time. And here's the thing, you are too. You are too. Mike Lindell is out there. He's public. General Flynn, Lynn Wood, those people are out there. But the thing is, you are too. You're an instrument that God has asked to take part in this season. That's why you're alive. And so the question is, are you going to participate? Because God told me something a couple of years ago. He said, my will isn't complicated. He said, the things that I want to accomplish are not that hard. He said, but there are so few that are willing to participate when I give the call. And so the real question is, you know, what are you willing to do? What is God calling you to do? And are you willing to participate? It could be something just as simple as going into a store in this day and age with your face uncovered and setting an example, and then saying something to another person and giving them the courage to do that, because it's about so much more than just the face covering. And I got a text from a friend the other day about this, and I wanted to share what they said, because this is a friend who is a really good mom, and who is um, has two special needs children, and she's uh, really loves God. And but this whole thing, it's been challenging for everybody. I mean, it's hard. It's hard to walk out in public and get confronted. And where she lives, she gets confronted for wearing it and for not wearing it, because there it just goes both ways, because her state doesn't have a mandate, and so sometimes she'll pull it up or whatever because she doesn't want to. bother, she doesn't want the hassle. And then people will fuss at her for that. So it's like she can't win for losing. But this is what she said to me the other day. This is right after my show. Um, remember when I was talking about how you can turn the tables and you can pick up your phone and call 911 and say, "You're assaulting me, and I'm calling 911 right now because I'm going to file charges against you for assault and harassment." And your employer is not going to back you up. They're not going to hire a legal team to support you for the way that you're treating me right now. And so I was teaching about that. And then this is what they said. They said, my son and I went into a store, and a lady with her mask on her chin stopped us to say how proud she was that we had the guts not to wear the mask, and a great example to my son um, as a parent. It was really cool. Okay, then I told her that she could take her mask off too. They're not mandated here anymore by local government or state government. And I told her what you said. Ask the employee if their boss will support them in a civil suit for trampling on your rights under the Disabilities Act, and HIPAA laws forbid them from forcing you to disclose. She was like, really? And started taking off her mask as we were walking away. And then this is what my friend said. She said, it felt more empowering than ever to see her take her freedom too. And see, guys, this is what we're called to. It's you plus God is a majority. It just takes one action, imperfect action. Hey, Millie, it's imperfect action. You take the action, and then you take the cues. And in this case, this person approached them and said, "Good job, mom. You're setting an example." And then my friend took the cue. So God is giving you opportunities. You don't have to be on a world stage. You don't have to be a podcaster. You don't have to be a politician. You don't have to be a CEO of a multi-million-dollar company to make an impact. In fact, it's the everyday people that are taking this country back for good. That is what you are being called to do. And it's little steps like this. So my friend is a catalyst now for getting one person to take back her freedom. And so that's going to ripple out. That person's going to go home and tell her family, "Hey guys, we don't have to put up with this. We don't have to be harassed or bullied. And in fact, we're going to call 911 next time this happens." Do you see how this works? And so it's your willingness to participate that makes all the difference. And there's an amazing thing that happened yesterday in Arizona. I know that some of you have already seen this because this video has gone viral. There are several videos that have come out. The one that I saw was on Facebook, and it was the whole thing that was recorded. And this is what happened. It was in a school district called Vail School District. At first, I thought it was in Colorado, and I was like, wow. So, but it's in Arizona. Vail School District, Vail School Board, violates Arizona open meeting law, refused to hear from the people, and goes home. So, listen to what happened, guys. This is what I'm talking about. We are taking it back for good. This is what they did. They said, hey, Minnie, they said, so the people hold a quorum, call their own meeting to order, elect a new school board. This is all last night. This is all in the moment. They didn't leave and come. They didn't say, "Oh, they canceled. Darn, sucks. We gotta go home." They didn't have the meeting. They didn't do that. First of all, they recorded everything. They were educating the law enforcement, the sheriffs who didn't know anything. I shared this on my Telegram, by the way. And it was incredible. Okay. So they said, they elect a new school board, and they were using Robert's Rule of Order. So people are going, I nominate so and so. Okay, do we have a second? I second that. So you've got 5 new people on the school board. They ousted the school board that violated their oath. They're gone because they were cowards and they were put in place by the people. This is what I want you to understand. The government, the entire constitution in our country rests on this, that government functions by the consent of the governed. That's me and you. We consent to let you govern. You are not ruling over us. Do you see the difference? People have gotten it in their heads erroneously that the government lords over you. No, they don't. No. Consent. Okay? So everybody that has any interaction with the government and the abuse of the government, everybody should be there should be a massive Me Too movement afoot for people that have been abused at the hands of the government and have not consented to what the government has done. Because if there's any call for a Me Too movement, it's this. How many of you have been subject to government tyranny over the last year? Me too. Hashtag me too. Because they have taken the power that was granted to them by the vote that you cast, and they have turned it around and turned it against you. That is what has been going on. And that is why people like me are out here refusing to comply, because I don't consent. I do not consent to a governor who is using pseudoscience and politics to tell me that I have to restrict my breathing or that I'm not allowed to go into a facility because I am exercising my First Amendment right and my constitutional right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Life is breath. Do you see that? Now, so the first thing that this school board did was to cancel the mask mandate in that school district. Canceled. Done. Okay. And then it said they also voted to disallow any medical procedure being forced on the children or employees. Pretty good, huh? Now, it said, this is how you take back power from a tyrannical government. Great work to the parents of the students in the Vail School District. They have a website. So this is the Patriot Party of Arizona that was doing this. This is important. This is important because when people are saying, oh, this is great that these people did this, we need more of this, what you have to understand is that the more is you. You're more. You're the more. You're the ones that go to the meetings. You're the ones that show up and demand. And the guy that was working the camera on this one, he was very vocal, and he was really turning the tables back on the police, the sheriffs specifically. And I thought that was really good because he was incredibly respectful. And that's the thing, you can speak respectfully. That's what we want. We want to have reasoned, measured conversations and dialogue. That's what America is based on. We don't want to be calling people names. We don't want to be screaming at them. We just want to talk. And so this particular parent, this man, he was incredibly respectful, but he just kept saying, this is not how this works. First of all, the sheriffs were saying this meeting has been adjourned. And this man and the woman that was with him, I don't know if it was his wife, they were saying, you can't adjourn a meeting that you haven't even called to order. that's not possible. They are canceling the meeting that was publicly announced, and that they're canceling a meeting that was publicly announced, and in Arizona they have something called the open meeting law. And one of the things that we've noticed in our country recently is that, those sheriffs were trying to get those parents out of there, saying that they needed to disperse. And one of the points that the parents brought was, this is a public building that is funded by public taxpayer money, and we are not going anywhere. We're not going anywhere. And it was just very interesting because the sheriffs, while they were trying to act official, they were really acting on behalf of they were acting on behalf of the school board. They were not impartial at all. I mean, they weren't being violent. They weren't getting physical. Well, actually, the one sheriff did get physical with this guy, but, they weren't trying to arrest people is what I'm saying. They didn't, on the surface, it didn't look like they were abusing their power, but they actually were, because they were trying to enforce something that really was unenforceable. And, and so it could have gone really bad with the sheriffs. But I have to give kudos to at least one of those people in uniform, because when this parent brought up the open meeting law in Arizona, uh, the sheriffs weren't familiar with it, which is crazy. They don't know the law. And so he said, "Educate me." And so the woman actually pulled it up on the phone on her Google, and she was reading it off and explaining what it meant. And so that was very interesting. And so that, I think, that was a really helpful exchange. And you could see it was obvious that the parents were there uh, to exercise their constitutional rights. And so I think that, I mean, I've done this before, where I've actually gone into a situation knowing the rules. And in some cases, it's just a question of going onto the website of the company that you're interacting with. That's what I did in Target. I went on their corporate website and I pulled it up and I said, it says right here on the corporate website, which you're governed by, and that people with a medical exemption can be in your store without a mask. So you can't let your customers bully you into violating federal law and your own policy. It has to stop. And so this is where, again, everybody, everybody in every walk of life has a role to play. And so you are being called. And going back to what I was saying about how God has chosen President Trump as an instrument, Michael Lindell as an instrument. He's given him a platform, General Flynn, Lynn Wood, those people. Well, he's also chosen you. And we are in a crossroads. We are in a massive crossroads in the history of our country, where you are being asked right now, will you participate? Will you participate? Will you um, take the time or take the risk of being uncomfortable, of having people look at you, of not liking that feeling, because you're walking into a situation knowing your freedom. Think about that. And when you dig deep and you think about how uncomfortable it makes you, I want you to think about how uncomfortable Michael Lindell feels, because he can't even go home. He has so many death threats against him, he doesn't go to his house. President Trump, his life has been threatened more times than we can count. Lynn Wood, he travels with bodyguards. Do you think he might feel uncomfortable sometimes? I mean, yeah. So your discomfort, I hate to say it, you got to suck it up, because you're being called. You're being called to a higher place, and you're being called to take those actions, to take imperfect action to stand up for freedom, and to do it on the basis of the very foundation of our nation, which is that these people in power are put there by the consent of the governed, by your consent. That's it. So if you consent to allowing them to force a medical procedure on you, then you're actually consenting, and you're allowing, you're complicit in the takeover of the government. Think about it that way. So, this is pretty deep. It's not meant to guilt you, but I really want you to understand what's at stake here. And that brings me to my next topic, um, which is the whole situation with President Trump talking about um, the vaccine. Okay, and this is something that I've talked about before. Uh, fear of being put in solitary confinement might be, yeah. I mean, this is our country that we're fighting for here. This is a big deal, guys. I don't know if some of you really understand the extent of what we stand to lose and of what we stand to be subject to if we don't take back our country. Um, I really want you to understand this, and that brings me to the article that I read earlier today. The article is this. It says how Trump's vaccines present the Great Reset and save humanity. Now, I'm not going to read the whole article. There's no reason to be scared. The Bible tells you hundreds and hundreds of times, do not fear. If you're listening to something that tells you that the end is here, um, I don't believe that. I actually believe, just like Mike Lindell said, we're at the greatest time. We're at the greatest time in the history of our country. But you have to understand why. You have to understand what transpired over the past 20, 30, 40 years to get us in this place. Okay. I would say rebuke the fear. I do not agree with anyone that is telling you that this is the end. And here's the thing: if it is, are you going to be with Jesus or not? Is God God or is He not? So I don't ascribe to that. And yeah, there's a yeah. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole, but but I'm not saying there won't be persecution, okay? People are being persecuted right now. People that I know, their doors are being pounded in by the FBI in the wee hours of the morning. That happened to Brandon Strzok. The persecution is happening, you guys. I had the police called on me for trying to be in a store breathing. People are being targeted. People are being canceled. The persecution is now. That doesn't mean that we're in the end times. Do you know that every society since the time of Jesus, when faced with persecution, had a doctrine of end times saying, this is it, we're done? And Johnny Enlow teaches really extensively about this, and I'm going to defer you to him, because what you need to understand is that what you need to understand is that the reason we're here is because people have had, the church has had that philosophy, and they have said, okay, this is it. We're going home to be with Jesus. We better hunker down. So this is important to understand. And I want you to go back and listen to the things that Johnny Enlow has been teaching and talking about, because he's researched it extensively. And he said that every time we are in a situation in our nation, in our world, where there's persecution, that 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 people think it's the end. And the 90s, 80s, 90s, the church, they just completely put their head in the sand. Why do you think that the deep state, that socialism and communism has taken over our colleges, our universities, our schools, our entertainment, our television, our tech, everything? If you have that attitude, if you think, I'm bringing a word of correction here, because if you think that this is the end, and you're locking all your doors and pulling down your shutters, you're part of the problem. I don't know any other way to say it. You're perpetuating the problem that happened, that got us in this place in the first place. It's time to step up. I am so tired of being the only person out there that's walking into a store without the stupid mask. So, this is real. This is real. People are already being persecuted. So, what feels like persecution to you may not feel like persecution to someone else, but the persecution is already happening. So, the time for going along to get along, and the time for rolling, putting your rapture rug out and thinking, okay, Jesus, take the wheel. You better come now because it's all over with. We're done. Guys, what did I just say in the first 30 minutes of this broadcast? God is looking for people to participate. This is our time. This is the time for revival. This is the time for winning souls to Jesus. This is not the time for you to wrap it up and go home. So, yeah, it's really, really important that you fight. And if you don't have the courage, ask for it, because God is calling you to fight. And I would also say that it's really important to guard your mind and guard your heart and guard the things that you're putting in your mind and the things that you're speaking and the things that you're agreeing with. Okay? So let me get back to this article that was put out. The website is stopworldcontrol.com. This is important. I've talked about this before. Okay, people are really disturbed. People are really disturbed by what Trump is saying. Go take the jab, right? And I've tried to explain this, but this article also explains it pretty well. And so I encourage people to read it. I'll put it in my Telegram. It's Mary Grace Media Official is my Telegram. But this is important because Trump knows what's going on, all right? But the thing that people are missing here, and I've said this, I don't know the full extent of what would have happened, but I do know that that we are at war, and he's stated that explicitly. He's stated that explicitly, that we're at war, and so he has to choose. He's making choices for the minimum impact. Okay, that doesn't mean that every choice he's making has the optimal outcome. When you're at war, you have to weigh the outcomes, and it's a constant weighing of the outcomes. And so, one of the things that happened with the pandemic is that that he was forced into a situation to by nefarious actors who really wanted to put our country on lockdown forever, because he brought our country back. He brought America back from the brink, and in doing so, he made all of the right people really, really mad, because the whole plan, the globalist plan, the 16-year plan to destroy America, meant that America, everything that made America unique and special and made us the top superpower of the whole world, would be destroyed. And so I want you to think about something. I was talking to a friend who was telling me that one of her friends in Cyprus is living there and is absolutely miserable in the country of Cyprus, because they're on such hard lockdowns that they can leave their house for maybe there's like a 2 or 3 hour window where they can actually leave their house, but only for essential activities. So we are almost 16 months. We're almost 16 months into the pandemic, and this is what's still happening in Europe. You think about that. That is what they wanted for the entire world, for America. Okay, so as painful as it is to hear the president saying, "Go do this," he knows that they have managed to brainwash enough people into thinking that this thing is a death sentence and that the only way forward is to get this procedure, that he has to say this. But in doing it, he actually, the actions that he took really prevented them from holding us hostage to their pandemic for any longer than they did, believe it or not. So by forcing the production, by getting everything done under emergency use authorization, it actually prevented the nefarious actors from mandating it, from requiring it, because you can't require by law something that is done under an emergency use authorization. So, as hard as it is, he did what needed to be done on the federal level to prevent a nationwide mandate. And this article, again, the article goes into a lot of depth about this, and it's worth reading. But I really need you to understand this, because there are people who are saying that, that's it. He's deep state. He's in with the globalists. He tricked us. He did all this to get us, to trust him. And now he's forcing this genocide on people because through these medical things. Okay. And that's not true, because think about this. If he were actually on their side running their agenda, there's no way that the media would be so completely deranged over him. I mean, they can't give it, they can't fake it that much. So yeah, it was a really tough situation, incredibly tough situation. And there are people who follow Trump, who voted for him, who are taking it because they really have been so scared. And that, it has, but here's the thing he's emphasized over and over and over, that is that it has to be your choice. And that is the big difference. Okay. He will never mandate it. And because of the emergency use authorization, even though it's a two-edged sword, right? People are saying this is bad, people shouldn't take it, it hasn't been tested enough. That's all true. But that's also the gift that President Trump gave you, in that is what keeps our country from forcing it on you. Do you see what I mean? So you really need to use some critical thinking here. And so, don't let fear rule you. I really want to encourage you on that. And just trust him, because I do know that he is that there's a lot of strategy going on here. Okay. And again, there are tons and tons and tons of people that are convinced that they need this. And a lot of them voted for Trump. So that they don't all think like you do. And again, I'm not getting into the science of it. I'm not an expert on that. I'm not saying there's no danger. I'm just saying that he had to weigh a lot of dangers, like long term, the danger of losing our country completely. That's what I'm talking about. And I think that some of you aren't quite clear on what the full implications of that are. And that's what I really want people to understand. Okay. So, yeah, just be aware of that, okay? This is a time where you really need to be awake, and you need to understand, and you need to ask for wisdom, because the Bible says that if any man lacks wisdom, that he can ask for it and God will freely give it. So if you're confused about this, if you're walking in fear, if you're thinking that our president is intentionally hurting people by the recommendations that he's making, I really want you to understand that um, uh, that that he actually was acting in a way that really is to save civilization. I don't know any other way to put it. That this is it. America's the last great hope. If America falls, that's it. I mean, you're going to want the end times if America falls. So you can thank him for the way that he handled this. It could have been so much worse. So much worse. Yeah, Dom on Facebook. I agree with you. Yeah, they did use the emergency use authorization for that, but you're missing what I'm saying. If it hadn't been under emergency use authorization, we wouldn't even be talking about this. We wouldn't. I wouldn't be broadcasting. I'd probably be in jail, to be honest. And we wouldn't even have the ability to broadcast right now. That's what they want for us. You have to understand that we wouldn't be having this conversation if the agenda that he stopped and is still working on stopping were allowed to play out. We would be on lockdown forever. We would have rolling blackouts. We would have, do you remember in the 70s when they rationed gas? You think that was bad? I mean, they're already trying that now. They're speeding up their agenda because they know their days are numbered. So just really think about this, okay? He is your best friend right now. He's not your enemy. And one day, hopefully, you will have a greater awareness of that. I just put that article into my Telegram. All right. So, oh, Millie, I just got your message. Thank you. It was very nice. Okay. Yeah. I mean, there have been so many there have been so many manufactured crises in this country, and this was beyond that. This is beyond a manufactured crisis. This would have been the end of Western civilization as we know it. That's it. So he had to weigh. He had to weigh in the balance. How do we prevent this and still answer and deal with the utter and complete brainwashing that's happened because of the media? Okay. And here's the thing. Our faith in God has taught us and should continue to teach us that God can turn around any situation. And that is really the story after story after story in the Bible, is that God is that God is the God of the impossible. So you may be thinking this emergency use authorization, these experiments that are being put into people's bodies in the natural, yeah, it looks really bleak. I get that. But in God's way, nothing is impossible. He can turn that all around. He can turn it all around, and that is the beauty of living and walking in faith in Jesus Christ, and in having the peace of God, which passes all understanding. You look at every situation that the people of God have faced for millennia, and you see how he's turned it around. I mean, you look at David and Goliath. That wasn't supposed to end the way that it did, but God wins. And it's interesting when you see a comment like that. I think I've been thinking about that phrase, God wins, because the truth is God won. He already won. And and I think the phrase really means, like, in this particular situation, God wins. But it's true. He wins. He already won. And so this is an opportunity. We are alive during the greatest time in history, and you were born to be alive in this time. And so it's a privilege. It's a privilege. It's an honor to be alive during this time and to have the ability to step up and say, here I am. I want to participate. I'm not going to hide anymore. I'm not going to go and lock my doors and wait for the end times. Yeah. So, on that note, though, does that mean that people aren't being put into almost impossible situations? No, it doesn't. He's giving us the tools to fight. All right. And one of those tools, um, um, we really don't know what's in his mind. Okay, I'm going to answer this comment because I think it's important. All right. I love you, Mary. Don't want to disagree with you. It's okay to disagree with me. Okay, we really don't know what's in his mind. We don't know exactly what's in his mind, but we know his history, and we know things that he said. He said we are at war. I am a wartime president, and we also know his record, his track record. His track record is to save lives, to preserve life. He's the first openly pro-life president in history. He also has said unequivocally that we are at a crossroads in the history of this country, and that this is not just another 4-year election. And so the things that he has said and the things that he's indicated to us give us an indication of what's in his mind. No, I'm not a mind reader, but I also know people that are close to him. And so I think that I have a pretty good read on him. And if you've been watching me long enough, I think you'll see that. I don't claim to know what's inside of anybody's mind, but I also get downloads from Holy Spirit. And so the things that I'm telling you are based on all of those data points that I'm pulling together. I'm not pulling this out of thin air. I'm not giving you a Pollyanna viewpoint and saying, uh, oh, it's going to get better. Trump is so amazing. He's just so wonderful. I'm telling you that I know that our country, he had to make a choice, that he was on the verge, that we would have lost our country forever. Um, and so this is the lesser of the tragedies. Like, I don't want to diminish what's happening with this experimental thing at all. But what I want to tell you is that this experimental thing would be at the bottom of your priority of conversation because of what they would be doing to us if Trump had not intervened. That's what I'm saying. You wouldn't even be thinking about this. You wouldn't even be thinking about the experiment because you would be that you would have militarized police coming around your neighborhood making sure you never leave your house. That's what's happening in other countries. That's what I'm saying. You wouldn't even that would be at the least, that would be like at the bottom of your list of conversations, is whether or not you're going to have that thing done. That's what I'm telling you. The gift that Trump gave you is that he put himself in the way of all of that, and he made a decision. He made very swift and decisive actions to get this underway and to cut off the plans of the enemy that they had for this nation, which would have been endless lockdowns, no no vaccine produced ever, like the war on cancer, right? The cure for cancer. We wouldn't be having this conversation if he hadn't done what he did. Okay. All right. So let me move on here because I want to tell you that in spite of all this, there are really real situations where people are being forced. And so, for example, the military isn't mandating that people take this, but now what they're doing is they're saying either you take it or you keep the mask on. So my friend's kid is going through this. He's in the military, right? And so now they have these kids have all this pressure, the peer pressure. It's like technically they're not mandating it, but you're stuck wearing the face diaper for the rest of your military career if you don't get it. And so they're just creating this massive division and peer pressure. So, and you've got a 21-year-old kid who wants to get along with his platoon or battalion or whatever he is in, right? His unit. And it's like a mark. They're forcing the mark on you that if you don't take it, you have to then you have to keep wearing the mask, right? And so people are being put in these impossible situations. And yeah, it is. It's like a scarlet letter. Yeah, it's like a yellow star. And so one of the things that people are going to have to start doing is fighting back legally, and that's what this friend of mine is doing. And so Lee Dundas has a website. It's citizensrights.org, and it's citizens-rights.org. And then she has a section on there called Legal Defense Fund. So if you're in a situation like that where you're being forced by backhanded coercion, um, then then you need to contact them. Also, if you or somebody that you know has been arrested or fined or otherwise targeted for participating in patriotic activities, um, contact them. That's one resource. And so people do have to start taking back their um, taking back their freedoms and make sure that you use the resources that we have available. Okay. And if you don't need those resources, make a contribution so that you can support those people that do. Hey Karen, can you change that link? We can't post actual links right now in Facebook and YouTube because they actually penalize my channels when you do that. So you have to write it out. Okay. Citizens-rights .org. You have to space it out. So because if you put a legit link, they're gonna sandbox my page. Okay. They hate external links. Um, so yeah, so just take that down and then write it out and then people can figure out what to do. Okay. But thank you for doing that. Okay. So it's it's crazy. So citizensunited.org. And yeah, Greg, I saw that video. I didn't see the whole context of it. So, I mean, I don't know exactly what was happening when they were giving them that shot. Um, but let me see. Let me just look at the comments really quickly. Oh, I wanted to tell you something. So, I've been talking about superfoods a lot lately, and I've been talking about specifically what's been happening with my dad because he was having so much brain fog. And I've been giving him a couple of different things. Been giving him superfoods and then these couple of other supplements that are in our superfoods lineup. And his turnaround has been so remarkable. I talked about this on the show last week. He has had such an amazing turnaround in his cognition. He's 83, and I'm actually like I'm shocked. I mean, he's remembering things I don't remember. I'm going to get on this stuff now because it's just amazing. And it's also like he's more motivated and he's more active. And for example, yesterday we went to the garden center to get some flowers and vegetables, and we brought everything home and we left some of the things in the car. We left like the mulch and stuff in the car last night. And so today, I usually work during the day. I'm on the computer and working. So he comes down and he says, "Hey, are we going to get that stuff out of the car? What did you do with the plants? Let's," he was like gung ho, ready to do that. Now that's just regular normal behavior, right? Well, that wasn't his behavior 3 weeks ago. He would have completely forgotten that we got anything, that there was anything in the car. And then I could have had the plants down here for a month. And he would never have said anything. I would have said, "Hey, I planted your plants." And he would just looked at me like, "Oh, where'd you get that?" Eh, this is a massive, massive difference. Amazing, because of what these things are doing in his brain. So it's just unbelievable, amazing. So make sure that you write to me, and get on the superfoods. It's not just for brain health, but the benefits of this are just too good for me not to talk about. It's overall health. The things that are, speaking of experimental, the things that are in your food are really bad. And so this is just one of the best ways that you can get the cleanest nutrition, organic superfood nutrition delivered to your door. We have a 30, 60, or 90-day reset. And so if you want to get that from me, I encourage everybody to do the reset to get the superfoods into your body. That is info@marygracemedia.com. And then if you also want to know about brain health or cognition, just put that in the subject line, so that I can give you those links. It's amazing. But if you get my promo code, you're going to save over $100 off of retail of your entire order. So if you order the things that I'm using for my dad and the transformation pack, you're going to save over $100 off of the whole thing. And so it's amazing. It's just, I'm so in love with superfoods, and I'm loving helping people get healthier. I get amazing stories every single day of things that are happening in people's bodies and in their lives because of just getting better nutrition into your body, and also getting your gut healthier. So please write to me, info@marygracemedia.com. Make sure you mention brain health if you want to find out more about what I've been giving him. Delia has lost 62 pounds, um, which is amazing. And she walked a half marathon today. That's so cool. that's that's so good. And you've been on superfoods for about 9 months now, I think, right? It's a lifestyle, you guys. It's a lifestyle. Luann, I don't know the answer to that question. I doubt that we have that specific thing because most of what we have is plant based, but we have some things that are counter to that. Guys, we have a hair, skin, and nail supplement, and I've been using it. And I'm like, I mean, look at me, look at my skin. People have been writing to me telling me your skin looks amazing. So drinking water is good too. You got to make sure you drink enough water, but it's great. I mean, it makes my life so much easier too. That's what I took on my trip when I went to Tulsa. I had superfoods. And then, I was eating, one meal a day out, right? But everything else, superfoods, so easy. Start your day with superfoods, easiest thing ever. And it's so cost effective because you're getting so many organic fruits and vegetables into your body with the superfoods. You don't end up buying all these things that end up dying in the fridge because you never made them. Does anybody have that happen? I'm going to eat healthy, and then everything is in like a puddle in the crisper drawer because you never fixed it. Me, that's what I used to do. Okay, so I'll be back on Monday. Wanted to let you guys know. Can you believe it's almost the month of May? I'll be back on Monday, and we will have a wonderful time. I'll be live at 5:30 Eastern, right here on this, uh, um, right here on this channel, Mary Grace Media. And so make sure that you are here. Set your alarms, set your reminders. Don't miss a show. I'll be here Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday of next week at 5:30. And make sure you're following the Telegram channel as well, which is Mary Grace Media Official. Patricia on Facebook. Send me an email, info@marygracemedia.com, and I'll give you the information and the promo code. Okay. Info@marygracemedia.com. I'll send you that. Okay. So I will see everybody next week. Have a great weekend.